Absolutely. We've talked about this in the past, but I'd love to kind of come back to this, and that is cultural, religious, musical factors at Liberty, the Liberty culture, what's going on that may have influenced curriculum development throughout your time here.
I'm not sure that the cultural and religious and musical parameters or factors, I'm not sure that they can, I'm not sure you can get away from the influences. No matter what school you go to, whether it's a mainstream, secular, state college or whatever, even another Christian college, that which you have as culture is going to impact the institution. Now, it depends on what you want to do with that cultural influence. Obviously the X generation, or whatever it was called back in the early 2000s, and the Z generation we're dealing with now, and the baby boomers all are different cultures and they're different interests. But the cultural influences that impacted them, the economic dynamics, the regional culture, the different levels of culture, man, it has everything to do with the way you develop a curriculum. With that stated, Liberty University was unique in that it was being influenced by kind of two different religious cultures. One is the broader evangelical community, that is, and it's a Protestant church. It's focused on proclaiming the gospel. It endorses the theology that the Protestant movement as a whole endorses. But then in those early days, it was also affiliated with a very strong element, conservative, legalistic maybe, of the Independent Baptist Church, and which has its own fundamentalist culture. In those early days, it impacted everything from the way that the students dressed to the kind of Christian music they were allowed to perform and the pop music they were allowed to hear in the dormitories. I remember one of the first projects I ever heard by the Liberty Baptist Chorale, LBC, I guess it was called Chorale. They didn't have any drums on it. And the reason was because the independent Baptist groups that they were affiliated with didn't believe you should use drums in the church. That's all culture, and that is all the influence of culture, and it has everything to do with the success or failure of whatever the group does because of the identification it has with culture. That's it. Now let's fast forward to where we are today, and the dynamic that we're enjoying or we're experiencing is hugely different than what it was even when I came here. When I came here, the school was still pretty straightforward and conservative. They had a dress code. The men had to wear ties, and the ladies had to wear dresses. And in the morning, at least until noon. Well, the second year I was here, they abandoned that, so that all this dress code began to change. Well, the same thing happened with our music. I remember the week that we decided, okay, we don't have to be so careful about the percussion and the drums. I'll give you an example. I remember those first days whenever drums were being introduced into the fabric in the community here at Liberty. I'm talking about a drum set. The only thing they would talk about was electronic drums. And the reason was, and the only reason they permitted it is because they could control it, control the volume, they could control the atmosphere, they could control the ambient, they could control the acoustic for that matter. Well, that's not that way anymore. And it's not that they've compromised, it's just that our understanding of and our presentation, understanding for and our presentation of the entire ensemble as a whole has changed. And the dynamic of the people that are now part of our constituent has changed. I think, every movement is a product, or certainly is influenced by the culture and the religious tenets to which they espouse.